Hey there, and welcome to Classroom Convergence. I'm Leona, and I'm thrilled you're joining us on this exciting journey to transform education. If you're a parent or educator with a passion for making a difference, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll explore a big issue and celebrate the small victories as we come together to create positive change in education. From clever classroom hacks to heartwarming success stories, we're here to share, inspire, and spark new ideas. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's dive into conversations that matter. Because when we unite our voices, magic happens.
It is our fundamental right to direct the upbringing, care, and education of our children. Our mission statement, dedicated to fighting for the survival of America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. Now, I do want to start off by saying this is a fairly new podcast, and with that, there have been some hiccups and some hic-nots. So anyways, I have with me today Kristy Davis, the chair of the Colorado El Paso chapter of Moms for Liberty, which I'm super excited to have you hear her interview with me. However, in the beginning of the interview, there was some playback, so I'm going to have to start it a little bit beyond what our interview started. Now, I do want to state that Miss Davis did explain exactly what the missions for Moms of Liberty was, as well as introduce to us the problem in which created her or gave her leeway into joining Moms for Liberty, which was the fact that her two children, which were age 3 and 4 at the time, had to go to class and wear a mask and would come back with the mask filthy dirty, and then proceed to continue to do that when she's only sent her kids to school for 2 hours a day. And then after that, she started to look into things for parental rights. She made some awesome changes in her community, and I can't wait for you to hear the rest of her story. And I do ask again, please stick around because she does mention the mission statement for Moms of Liberty again. And I think that it clears up a lot of things and stigma that's around Moms for Liberty and shows you that their fight is for parents' rights.
Started fighting back, and I ended up pulling my kids from that school district and moving them to an unmasked district that's next door because we have school choice in Colorado. Mm-hmm. And I came back, and the ladies that I had met, we fought. And in 2021, that fall, we ended up flipping our school board to mostly conservative school board members. We ended up getting the superintendent fired, and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department disbanded, and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director also lost her job. And we were able to get the masks off the kids by that December.
And that's awesome.
That's really what got me started.
Okay. And I mean, I think that's awesome, especially to see like people in their community can actually make a change, because, you know, you always hear, I'm just one person, there's nothing that I can really do. And I think that you guys did a lot with just a little bit. And like, how did you even get the resources? Like, how did you know where to start from? Was it, you know, when you met the other individuals that you guys came together to come up with a plan, or did you kind of start the plan yourself?
So during the COVID masking, there were a lot of very upset parents in the community, and it encouraged a lot of like-minded people to want to be pushed into running for school board and running for some of the state positions like county commissioner and, you know, House rep. And so we found these individuals and got behind them, helped them campaign, door knock, and got them elected by a landslide. And then they became friends of ours, and we're able to still work with them to this day to get policies passed inside our school boards. I think it's really important for people to reach out to their school board members. I mean, go to a school board meeting when you meet these people and you find that you have some common ground with them, ask them out for coffee. That's what we always do. We meet them at restaurants for lunch or for coffee, and we just exchange ideas, and we help each other bring issues forward, and we even help them write policies.
I think that's pretty awesome. Like, I think even the fact that you're saying you're going out and meeting the individuals and talking and having that conversation, I don't think that that's something that I've normally seen in my community that I'm currently working at. And the fact that you guys, took the initiative to actually sit down and talked with you too as well, and are listening to your ideas. I think that kind of like shows you like that's the way that the traditional or the founders kind of wanted it to be, where it's the people working to build and doing it together.
Thanks.
So are you guys still currently like reaching out to those same individuals, or have they kind of become complacent in their position?
We still have a relationship with the sitting board members that were elected that year. In Colorado, each school board member generally holds a 4-year term, and they can run for a second 4-year term. So they're all about to come up for re-election in 2025. And we did get some other new members on the boards in 2023 as well. And so we've been working with some of them. And it's to the point where I like to try to share policies and procedures from one school board in my district to another, because I have 17 school districts in El Paso County that my Moms for Liberty chapter is trying to cover. And so I'll work with a board member in D38, let's say, and if I like a policy or help them design a policy that works really well in their district, I will go to the other districts and share that policy so that they can see the progress from one district to another. And I think that's where Moms for Liberty stands out in our community among other groups that are kind of doing similar things, because a lot of the groups are laser focused on their particular district. Like we have a group called the District 20 Advocates for Kids, and they primarily work in just D20. And then we have the District 11 Achievement Alliance. They primarily work in District 11. And so what my group does is share information between all of the different boards. And it's been extremely successful. Right now I'm working on a non-legal name change bill that passed through our House and Senate and was signed into law by our governor this past April, allowing students to change their legal name to a non-legal name. And in the original language of the bill, they had it as without informing parents. And we were able to get them to strip that language out in order to get it passed by the Senate. And so now I'm trying to get all of the school boards in my county, when they are writing their mandated policy for non-legal name change, to include parental consent, full parental consent. So that's my current project that I'm looking at.
Okay, I mean, that sounds very ambitious. And like, just going back to that policy, like, so if I'm understanding correctly, the kids can go, and are they going to, I'm assuming, the guidance counselor and saying like, hey, I want to change my name, and what they want to do? Is this like a standalone, like any type of name that they want to change, or are we more so moving like towards students that are in transgender area that want to change their name completely? Is that what that's covering?
I think the bill was originally proposed for transgender children that wanted to change their name, but the bill language is not specific. So any child can change their name to almost anything that they want. And the state, the way that they passed the bill, they did not think it through very well. And they have it so that a child can change their name whenever they want, to whatever they want. And so we're encouraging our school boards, because this is going to be a nightmare for people trying to keep track of students if they come in and change their name every day. We're encouraging our school boards to set a limit. So one of our school boards did, the child can change their name once a semester, but both parents have to sign off with the child. And then another school district is doing the same thing, where both parents have to sign off, but they're only allowed to change once a year unless they're going back to their legal name.
Okay, and so is this just, I guess, inside of the school, right? It's not like a permanent name change.
No, that's why they made it the non-legal name change.
Okay.
So a school district can't mandate that they change it legally on their birth certificate or whatever, and then the school will allow them to change it. They can just say, today I want to be called Jamie, and tomorrow I want to be called Johnny. And the school's supposed to accommodate that.
Yeah, and I can see where that gets really confusing because, I mean, I work with third graders currently right now, and I'm sure, like, some of my third graders would love to be called Dinosaur, and there's some that like to go to Mario, and they have, like, they change their name, like, every hour or so, or they have, like, something else new that they like, so they like to, you know, be called by that. So that could be a little bit, it could be very confusing.
We tried to bring this up while the bill was in session and letting them know that, I mean, I could change my name to your name and we could be in the same class taking a math test. And then tomorrow I change my name back to my name. Now whose test paper is whose?
Exactly, that is true. I didn't go that far, and that should have been something that I was thinking about, but I guess I'm very naive. But that's very true. And I don't think that they think about, there's a lot of things that, you know, they allow or that are permissible that I don't think they really deeply think about it and, like, the repercussions that are going to come from it.
Yes.
I know that recently you told me you were going out of town. And then I did see that there was, like, a conference for Moms of Liberty around Labor Day. Am I correct?
Yeah, it was the last week of August.
The last week of August, yeah. So the 30th, correct? And then did you get to go to that?
Yes, it was amazing. So every year, Moms for Liberty does what we call our summit. And we hold it in different places every year. So last year it was in Pennsylvania. This year it was in Washington, D.C. And we get some pretty big name speakers to come. We had President Trump there this year. I got to sit front row and listen to President Trump. Glenn Beck was there. Rob Schneider was there. James Lindsay. So there was a lot of amazing speakers. It's a very inspirational event. You're around other Moms for Liberty chapter chairs and members from all across the country. So I got to meet chapter chairs from California, New York, Pennsylvania, South Carolina. And we get to meet all of the admin who are out working hard for us in Moms for Liberty National. So it was a great event.
Oh, okay. So going back to that, just because you touch bases on something, and to go back to what you said earlier, when you guys get together in the conferences now, do you share, like, what's going on in your district outside of your districts and outside of your state?
We do. We have a Facebook community of all the chapter chairs that we can share information, and we have monthly chapter meetings with everybody from national. You can sign on if you want to or not, and we share our wins beforehand. And so they'll say, you know, Kristy in Colorado had the Healthy Kids Colorado survey removed from her schools. And if people want to ask questions, they can. A lot of times, if we're trying to remove or find more information on a specific social emotional learning program, let's say, that's coming into my school, I can go on and say, has anybody done a review on second step social emotional learning? And people who have already done reviews will send me their reviews. So it's a great resource for us to be connected with so many different chapter chairs that are working the same way we are, advocating for our schools in our own cities, counties, and states.
And that makes sense. And so, like, I would assume that you'd have to be a member in order to be a part of that Facebook group.
You have to be a chapter chair specifically. So you have to be running your chapter.
Okay, so then this is just for, okay, I understand. But, like, let's say that you're somebody that is interested in joining Moms for Liberty. How would you go about doing that?
So you would go on to our national website, which is www.momsforliberty.org. It's MOMSFORLIBERTY.org. And one of the first things that pops up when you sign on is join our fight, and you click on that, and it's going to ask you a bunch of questions, your name, your address. You fill that out, and then it asks you to select which chapter you want to join. And so you have already filled out your state, so it'll bring up all the chapters that are in your state. We're currently in 48 states. We don't have a chapter yet in Vermont or in Utah. So if anybody listening is in Vermont and Utah, we'd love to get all 50 states by the end of the year. And then you enter in information about this for the specific chapter that you're trying to join, and then it'll send me a message as the chapter chair asking if I want to accept you into the group. And once I accept you, then you're a member. And you can join as a paying voting member. We charge $25 a year for that, or an associate member, and that's a free membership. And anybody can join. We do vet our members to make sure that you're like-minded and want to fight for parental rights.
That makes sense. Going back, because I watched the event, but I was not there, of course. I was not live. I watched the event from home on YouTube. There was an article that I saw that came out after it, and I thought that it was like a little disingenuous. So I was trying to pull up that exact, it's from The Hill. And they were saying that, at the event that there wasn't that many people that, showed up, or they said that the cause for Moms of Liberty is, I guess, dwindling. What do you say to that article and to other articles that are similar, that are saying that the event that you guys recently had was not as good as, I guess, in the past, and that the fact of the fight that you guys have for, parents' rights is not something that most parents are concerned about?
I don't believe that to be true. We had over 650 people in attendance. I didn't attend the Pennsylvania event, but there was a lot of people there.
Yeah.
And we all had a great time. They had great breakout sessions for us. I think the movement is still very strong, especially with what's going on in our country right now. The indoctrination that's coming into our schools and the government overreach, the teachers union especially, that's pushing social emotional learning in place of academics into our schools.
Yeah.
The grades across the country are slipping. Anybody can look up the data and see. And I think parents are waking up even more than ever. We had a large surge of members join during COVID because of the masking and the vaccine, but I think that the CMAS scores that came out this year, we've been getting a ton of new members, especially with our Title IX injunction that we just won against the Biden-Harris administration.
Yeah.
That brought in a lot of members for me. I doubled my membership since July.
Can you actually tell us a little bit more about why did you get an influx of people joining?
Okay, so the Biden-Harris administration decided to define sex inside Title IX. So currently Title IX is a 37-word document that gives equal rights to women as to men. So it's the original Title IX statement is no person in the United States shall on the basis of sex be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. And so that's it. That's Title IX. The Biden-Harris administration decided to define sex in a 1,500-page document and make it into gender ideology.
That's a big
It
difference.
essentially allows biological males to now come into women's sports, women's private spaces. They can join any one of our sororities, go on women-only field trips, restrooms, the whole nine.
That's crazy.
And it's also going to compel people to go along with pronouns, or it will be deemed discrimination. And so what Moms for Liberty did was we filed a lawsuit against them saying that this will violate our First Amendment rights and our children will be compelled to call a man a woman and vice versa.
Yeah.
And the case was held in Kansas. We ended up winning an injunction. And so it was for the states of Kansas, Alaska, Utah, Wyoming, as well as all of the members and their children of Moms for Liberty, students of Young America's Foundation, and Female Athletes United. And so on July 2nd, we won that.
Congratulations.
And any member's child's school is essentially exempt from the August 1st mandated new Title IX revisions that went out to all of the schools. So Moms for Liberty basically put ourselves in between the government and our schools. So if there's a member there and a school board decides they don't want to do the new Title IX changes, they cannot lose federal funding from the government. And so on July 15th, they went even further and said any member or future member. So anybody can join Moms for Liberty right now and have their schools exempt from the new Title IX changes. And we update the list every 2 to 4 weeks. They're adding new schools, but as soon as you join, your child's school is exempt.
I think that's unbelievable. Like, I can see why, like, there's a stigma, too, around, Moms for Liberty, because I think that, some people don't see this aspect, and I think that is so powerful, because having that change and then the funding, usually the schools go for wherever the funding is, and if they're saying that they're going to take funding, they'll enact or do something that, the government has, like, put at their doorstep just to keep the funding in. And so having that option of joining Moms for Liberty, and I think that a lot of the stuff that I read about, like the masking, I think that's pretty good. Even some of the books, because there was some very explicit content, I think, in some schools as well. I think that's a good thing. And just adding this where all you have to do is be a member and your school is exempt from that, and not having that pressure of losing their funding, I think that makes school life, or like, I could think maybe have the parents have a little bit more security that their kids are not like being readily pushed information that they don't want them to receive.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of people joining curious about Title IX and curious about what Moms for Liberty can do to protect their students. And it's really opening eyes, because a lot of legislation that's being passed is for these gender ideologies, and they're not thinking through the safety of the other students. They're not thinking of the emotional well-being of the other students.
That's very true. And you know what, like, just to go back to that article that I saw that I was reading, like, I think that was what they kind of like wanted to like brush under, because when they didn't mention Title IX, they didn't mention this piece, they kind of like brushed it under as now Moms for Liberty is like against transgender. So all they want is if a kid says that they're transgender, they want banned, like, because they banned the books. And that's what the language of this article is, like, they've banned the books. They were like heated during COVID for masking, and then now they're coming for transgender. That's their new type of mission, is for transgender. They're not looking at education is supposed to be those core curriculum, and parents shouldn't feel, and I think as well, women shouldn't feel like that they're losing something that's very important to them.
Yes, and if I can just touch a little bit on the book banning. So everybody that is attacking Moms for Liberty, calling us book banners.
Yeah.
I mean, the content in some of these books is vulgar. We're not going after LGBTQ books in particular, and that they seem to always focus on that. We're going after books that are pornographic in nature, vulgar. We're trying to make sure that our school libraries in particular, and classroom libraries, have education-rich material free of pornography, vulgar content, avoiding material that is immoral or of a pernicious nature. We want age appropriate for the youngest audience in the school, because if you're in a high school, freshmen are going to be looking at those books, not just seniors. It has to be wholesome, and we want it to be full of an academic or education-rich content, because a lot of libraries don't have a lot of space. So it's for the limited amount of space and the limited amount of time that children have in the school libraries. We're not banning books. If parents want their children to be exposed to some of the content in these books, they can go to Amazon, they can purchase the books, they can take them to the public libraries and get the books there. But when we hand our children over for the day to the school to teach them academics, the parents are not with their child in that library. So we're trusting, or should be able to trust, that the books that are in those libraries are age appropriate and not vulgar or pornographic in any way for our children. And some of these books that we've seen, like there's a book called Push that's really bad, and this book is gay. That have extremely graphic pictures and scenes inside of them that are just not appropriate in schools.
Yes, I believe you. And I know that, like, You mentioned the last time that we kind of did an interview about like the books and them being brought to the education office, and they didn't want to hear or have them read in there as well because they were very explicit.
Yeah, we have had mics cut off as we're trying to read these books at school board meetings. We try to post images and pictures from these books on Facebook, and Facebook will block the content. You know, the school board members, as they're shutting mics off, are saying this is not appropriate. You should not be talking like this. And we're saying this is the content that's in our libraries. Some of these are in elementary school and middle school. And the big push that we have is these books have a rating similar to a rated R movie. And they say on them, not intended for audiences under the age of 18 and may be illegal in some states. In my state of Colorado, that is illegal. And so when we're going in and finding these 18 and over books in elementary schools and middle schools, we're trying to remove them. If this book was made into a movie and it was a rated R or rated X movie, it would not be allowed to be shown in the schools. Yes. And we have brought these policies to our boards and said, this book in movie form is rated R and it's not appropriate to be shown under your policy for media. But the same book you're allowing in because they use the argument of it's free speech, we don't want to ban books, but it's the same content, it's the same subject matter as that rated R movie.
Yeah, because like now we can't do PG, we can't do any PG unless it's signed, you know. And rated R for elementary is like a big no-no. Like, I don't think anybody would do that. That's my mind frame. But I'm sure that there are people that, you know, will live outside the box. And I don't see like anything wrong in parents wanting to make sure that their kids are getting, like you said, wholesome education. Find the material that you want to teach them if it's outside of the appropriateness of like what's the medium for everybody, like the math, the reading, the writing.
Yes. And that's at the parents' discretion then. If they want their child to read these books that some people consider vulgar, then that's their choice to do in the privacy of their own home. But when they're at school and they're away from their parents, it should be education rich and wholesome, and it should be free of any pornography and vulgar content.
I do want to ask you the question, like if you could tell parents, people that are out there that may have that wrong impression, because if they read an article like the one similar to the one I just mentioned, they would think that Moms for Liberty like is just basically out there to ban books. They would think that they're out there to stop, like, you know, somebody's health or to interfere with somebody's health as far as masking was concerned, you know, and then now that they're out to see kids that are struggling with knowing what their gender is and saying, okay, now we want to make sure that they have no space or that they know that their thought process is incorrect. What do you want those parents that have read those articles or those parents that may read those articles to know about Moms for Liberty?
Moms for Liberty, like I said earlier, our mission statement, dedicated to fighting for the survival of America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government. That's what we advocate for. We want to make sure parents are informed. So if your child is experiencing gender confusion, they shouldn't be hiding that from the parents. They should be bringing the parent in, and the parent should be going along with the entire experience, making sure that the decisions that are made for their child and discussions that are happening with their child, they are aware of. If that's something you want to then go ahead and explore with your child, at least you're involved.
Yeah.
But a lot of the school systems right now and the government programs that are being passed are trying to push parents out. And we fight to have parents put back into everything. We want parental bills of rights passed in every state. We want our school boards passing parental rights policies. If there's a policy passed, like the non-legal name change one I was telling you about, we need to have parents consenting. There is no reason that a government-run school should be keeping secrets from parents and telling our children things that we are unaware of. We fight for parental rights. That's all we fight for. We're not trying to ban anything or make children feel unsafe. We're trying to bring parents back into the equation. And I think a lot of the social, emotional, mental health issues that these schools are hemorrhaging millions of dollars on as a fix for behaviors of children in school, the simple fix to this is bring parents back in. Get parents back involved. You should be discussing this stuff with the parent and allowing the parent to be involved in any type of treatment or mental health, anything that you're doing with your child. The parent is their primary caregiver. When they're at home, their love comes from their parent. We're going to be seeing our children from the moment we give them their name till the moment we lay on our deathbed. Our children are going to be alongside us the whole way. We're going to be watching them graduate from first grade. We're going to be watching them graduate from 12th grade, and we're going to be watching them in college. The school that they're in right now is only going to be with them for a couple of years. We know what's best for our children, not the state government. And like with the non-legal name change, for instance, we name our children. That's the first gift we give our children. And now the government is trying to say, well, they can change their name and we just won't tell the parents. So now our children are going to be called by adults, professional adults, a name that we are unaware of. Mm-hmm. This is what we fight for. We fight for parental rights, for parents to be involved in these kinds of decisions. To me, I mean, that's just ridiculous that they would even consider removing that right. And the two sponsors on the bill were our trans and non-binary House reps. Neither one of them is married. Neither one of them has children. I'm sorry. They are married. They don't have children.
Yeah.
So they're making bills and laws, and they're not even parents. So that's what we fight for. And we're always happy to have people join us or ask us questions. And if you are concerned, you read an article, please reach out to us. We can clarify almost everything that these people are saying. And, you know, not hardly any of them reach out and actually interview us and ask us what our stance is on this stuff. We're not a hate group. Like they say, SPLC labeled us a hate group, and that's not what we are. We are concerned parents that are trying to remain in full control of our children. It is our fundamental right to direct the upbringing, care, and education of our children.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I answer your question?
That definitely did answer my question, but it sparked one more question that I would like, just maybe two. Sure. I know that you're the great. But you went back to saying that you wanted, to give parents the right, but what about those parents that, and in my community, this is where I have the issue, and I think it would be usually the Title I schools. So how do you get those parents to become interested or get them to understand that it's really important for them to be very involved in their child's education?
I always encourage parents to talk to their children, even if it's just on that car ride home from school or to the grocery store. But it's very important to talk to your kids. There are very few, but there are teachers out there that are preying on children. We have one here that had every single one of her 5th grade students write a letter to the board when we flipped our board conservative and we got rid of the diversity, equity, and inclusion department. 5th graders, so these are 10-year-olds. She had them write the school board handwritten letters calling them racists, talking about the Don't Say Gay bill, talking about the trans flag, and asking the board members why they hate gay people. And this isn't pure indoctrination. Yeah. I have a TikTok video of this woman bragging about these letters and holding them up. And this is happening in the schools. We tried to get this particular teacher fired, and we were unable to do so because she's in the teachers union. But I tell parents all the time, you never know who your child is going to talk to. I talk to my kids. My children are 7 and 8. I talk to them all the time. If somebody ever tells you to keep a secret, they're not a safe person. Yeah. You should be able to tell your mother everything. Find out who your kids are friends with and what they're talking about with their friends. Find out what their teacher talked about with them today. If they say they had a new social emotional learning lesson, what did they teach you? make sure it's aligning with your values and your morals.
Yeah.
And if it's not, you need to be having a sit down with the teachers or with the administrators, the school board, the superintendent. I mean, there's a process you go through, but I think it's important that your children know that you're the safe person to talk to. And yes, their teacher is there for them as well, but it's a partnership between the parent, the teacher, and the child. And the teacher should never feel like there is not a partnership. They should always feel like the parent is there and involved. And so I know that a lot of teachers struggle, like you are, with parents that are not involved. I would suggest trying to reach out. What we do in our school is we are on this app called Parent Square, and it allows all of our teachers and parents to text each other through the Parent Square app. And so we stay connected. Our teacher sends out a weekly newsletter of what lessons they're going to learn, exactly what's going to be taught that day on everything from math to their character. They have a character of the month for Character First, which is our social emotional learning program. So it'll be like empathy. Yeah. And they'll have a picture of a duck, and then they'll have the description of empathy, and they tell us how they're going to teach it to our kids so that it can be reinforced at home. It should always be the parent working with the school. So my suggestion to all parents is stay involved with your kids, stay involved with their schools. Your teachers will also need your help. I would rather my teacher telling me every single day that my son was acting out just a little bit so that I can address the problem as it's happening, rather than my teacher coming to me in a month and telling me how awful my child is in class. It's a partnership. Parents need to stand up. They need to be involved in their children's lives, and they need to know who their teacher is, because that teacher is with your child for 6 to 8 hours a day.
That's very
true.
You
need to have a relationship with your children's teachers.
Yeah, I think that's very true, and that's the point of this. Is like, I just hearing the last part of what you're saying. Like, I think that's the most important thing, is if the parents and the teacher were on the same page, because sometimes it's harder with the admin and the people above. Like, they don't get things, but like if the parent and the teacher, I feel like, are on the same page, so much more could happen, so much more things could change. Because I feel like the teachers may feel a little bit more empowered to say, like, hey, I don't agree with this type of curriculum, or I've seen this and I noticed this, and I don't think that this is something that, you know, these parents would want their children to learn. However, it's kind of like, there's the teacher, there's the parent, they're far away, there's like no communication. If there is communication, it's basically when, you know, it's the last resort. Like, I could try to contact parents, I don't receive word back, I send planners. We have something similar, I think. We have something called rooms. They can't connect with every single teacher, but they can connect with their teacher, and I send out like what we're doing that week, etc. But I think that if we could get parents, just like how you said, that sounds marvelous. That sounds like a great thing, like to have the parents and the teachers on the same page. Then I think that from there, it makes it a little bit more easy to know, like, where's the teacher's head at. And then also for the teachers to know, like, okay, you know, we're in this together. Like, we have the same goal set for this child, and we're working together to make sure this child at the end of the year has hit this goal, whatever that goal may be.
Yes, and even quarterly goals. I think that's more important than the end of the year. I mean, if your child is not to grade level and you're communicating with the teacher, I would say weekly, but quarterly, your child's going to be in a lot better place by the end of the year, because the teacher's going to be keeping up with you. Like, your child needs to read more at home. You need to be practicing your math facts more. That's just my opinion. I am very involved in my children's education.
And I think you sound very marvelous. I don't think there's anything wrong with Moms for Liberty if their parents are so engaged in their child's education. The fact that you guys are empowering parents, and I know that I'm sure that there are some parents that are just like the parents I'm discussing now that are not involved but have seen this movement and have become that much more involved in their child's education. So I think that it's a great thing that parents can see, like, they can be a part, and they can, you know, they can take an initiative, and they can make changes, and they can say, hey, I don't think that I like this for my kid.
Yeah. And that's what's great about joining Moms for Liberty too, because you're going to join other parents that also are learning as much as they can about the school, and you're going to find other people in your community, in your own kid's school, and when you have issues, you can come together to resolve them.
Before we end, I do want to ask you, is there anything else that you want to add? I know that all your links and stuff I'm going to put in the description of this podcast.
I think that last topic really summed up what I would have said at the finale of this interview is just get involved with your kids. Just that's the most important thing. I mean, our children are our future, and we need to give them the best future that we can give them. And we do that by making sure that they are learning what they're supposed to be learning in school, academics, and that our morals and values are being upheld while they're doing it. So
that sounds awesome. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate you having me on today and getting to talk about Moms for Liberty. And I'm honored that you had me as your first guest, and I wish you luck in the future with this podcast. And you're always welcome to bring me back on if you have any questions about parental rights or want to know more about Moms for Liberty.
Thank you so much.